Welcome to the Newsa-Cast YouTube channel. These Red Smith Banquet throwbacks are exclusive interviews of sports legends, powerful media personalities, and influential coaches. You won't find these anywhere else. Subscribe below and enjoy. All right, folks, happy Sunday. It's another Red Smith Sports Award Banquet throwback. And this week, Tosh, we have the legendary Jack Bennett. Of course, we have Dick Bennett, Tony Bennett, the Bennett family. They're basketball through and through.
Yeah, and if you want, this was all part of an episode where we interviewed Appleton North coach Rob Somm. Talked to him a little bit about coaching in the Fox Valley. So check that out. Go wherever you find your podcasts and listen to any of our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, or even on this YouTube channel.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can hear Rob Somm talk about his brother Kurt Somm, so you're not going to want to miss that. So Tasha's right. Every Thursday of the podcast and every Sunday, well, you found us here. So enjoy Jack Bennett at the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet.
Please welcome Carl Brugnick. Carl.
Thanks, Chuck. And it's my distinct pleasure to present one of my former Clintonville basketball players, Jack Bennett, as the recipient of the Nice Guy Award. Now, many people say it's an honor, to have so many guys go into coaching, some of your former players, and I like to think so, although some people say after they played for my teams for a couple of years, they say, if a dummy like that can do a good job, I certainly can be a coach. So I don't know what the reason I'm here for, but I'm very, very excited for Jack. I got on the internet to UW-Stevens Point to get some information. I was just amazed. I mean, I followed his career all these years, but in 9 years, all of the things that he did, a lot of times a coach, 25, 30 years, but he did all of this in 9 years of college coaching, and he retired in 2005. Some of his accomplishments: 2 NCAA Division III national champions in 203, 204, and in 204, 205. And then as an added thrill, his son Nick scored 30 points in that championship game and was named the most valuable player in the tournament. The second year when they won the championship, they averaged a winning margin of 21 points per game. He had 5 NCAA teams, 4 of them went to the Elite Eight, and he's one of only 3 coaches that won back-to-back titles. He's was named the winningest coach in USP history. He's had 200 wins and only 56 losses at point, 78% winning, and he's third behind Ken Anderson and Bo Ryan, and only second in the 90-year history to win 5 conference titles in his first 9 years. Basketball Times National Coach of the Year 2004-2005, Moulton Division III News Coach of the Year 2002-304, 206 inductee into the Wisconsin Basketball Coaches Hall of Fame, 2006 Ripon College Distinguished Alumni Award. His teams, here I think is a very interesting statistic, his teams finished 500 or better 32 out of the 33 years of coaching. 13 championships, and at every school and every level. In high school, he was 280 wins, 119 losses in 19 years. He had championship teams at Park Falls, Marinette, Wisconsin Rapids, and Rhinelander. I'd say some of the words to talk about Jack is about intensity, unselfishness, passion, solid team defense. These have all been cornerstones of his teams. Now, he played 2 seasons of minor league baseball in Geneva, New York, and NCAA rules did not allow him to play any college ball then. He signed right out of high school. But at Clintonville High School, where I had the good fortune of being the athletic director and his coach in basketball and in some football, he was a coach's dream. He captained our baseball and basketball teams and was a fierce competitor. When I go and watch his teams and see Nick and not Tony, and see Nick and Jay play, it's just seeing Jack all over with that tremendous intensity. Now, he had the misfortune of playing in a school, Clintonville. We were in the Mideast in his years that he played, and we were by far the smallest team in the league. In fact, like Neenah had twice our size. I honestly think with his leadership and his devotion, had we had the class system in those years, he would have led us to the state tournament as well. Now, Jack is finally retired last year. I don't think we've heard the last of him, but he's retired from his 12-hour day, 7-day-a-week job. And he's trying, I know his good wife Sue is trying to get him a little more well-rounded. So she bought him a big ice auger. He decided to try ice fishing. So he went out, and he got his big auger, and he put it up there, and he's just going to start it, and he heard a voice say, "There are no fish down there." He thought, "Ooh." So he moved over a ways, and he just getting it ready. "There are no fish down there." He looked up. He could hear us. He thought, "Boy, well, the big guy's been good to me all these years. I better listen." So he moved over about 10 more yards. He was just going to say, "There are no fish down there." Finally, he went 20 more yards. He's going to try one last time. He's just going to start, and it was, "There are no fish down there. You are in an ice hockey arena." But he's a lot more relevant. I shouldn't pick on him like that. In fact, he's already working on his second book. I don't know if you know that. It only took him 12 years to read his first one. But but seriously, Jack is a great motivational speaker. He speaks a lot at banquets, and in fact, now he's speaking on the corporate level, and I think making a good living doing that. But I want to mention that we have an 8th grade breakfast for our 8th graders. And I have him and Bill Jarts here, Schmitty. They're both Clintonville boys. I have them back each year for the Rotary 8th grade breakfast, and they speak, and they both do a fantastic job. But I have to tell you, a couple of years ago, we had the banquet. We have 150 boys there, and 12 of the boys were not allowed to come because they'd had discipline problems. And our middle school faculty they just look forward to these guys. But anyhow, after the meeting, Jack went down to the middle school and met with each one of those 12 kids individually. And I thought, there's dedication, and that's being a nice guy. And that's what it's all about. His children are also well on their way to success. Jay played 4 years, and he played 8 straight years for his dad, and they still talk to each other once in a while. 4 years at Rhinelander, and then 4 years at Point. And Jay will graduate this spring from medical school and is going to serve his residency in lacrosse. Nick completed his master's at UW-Stevens Point and is now a grad assistant basketball coach at UW-Marquette. Jack and his lovely wife and supportive wife, Sue, who teaches English at Wisconsin Rapids, now live in Plover. Ladies and gentlemen, please join in welcoming the 2007 Red Smith Nice Guy Award winner, Jack Bennett.
Thank you. Thank you. Bill, I want to know, does he pay you any more than he pays me when we do those banquets? And I get about 1,000. Is that? We'll speed this up because I really do want to hear Bill Raftery. I simply said, there are a lot of analysts out there, and there's some who they're so wrapped up in themselves it makes you sick. This guy combines style and substance. And I just think that when he's out there, when he's talking about the game, you want to listen, and he makes it fun. Gilbert, congratulations to you. You know, the other thing about you is when you did your grave digger routine, I never felt it was done for show. It was done because you had a natural exuberance for the game. It is an honor to be. You know, I am a little upset. You've ruined my image, Nice Guy Award. Obviously, you did not talk to any officials. Obviously. Probably didn't talk to a lot of parents either. And some player matter. And I know you didn't talk to my wife on every day of the week. But this year's award was tough. And I think the finalists is what made it so special. The finalists, Barry Bonds. Dennis Rodman. John McEnroe. Randy Moss. Then the final three, myself included, Mike Tyson, and I just edged out Terrell Owens. I always ask this, by the way. Do we have anybody who was a point grad here or sent their kids to UW-Steve? Oh, good. Yeah. How about, Madison, UW-Madison? Marquette? Lawrence, Ripon, the private schools? Good. Anybody go to, like, Minnesota schools or Iowa? All right, I will speak real slowly for you people. You got it tough enough in Minnesota. You got to root for those darn Vikings. Let me just share a couple of thoughts with you. The nice guy. I got to try to be nice. I got to try. The naturally nice person in our family is my wife. It comes real easy for her. I fail at it often, and I think when I fail at it, it comes down to this simple fact. When I'm doing things for this world, for my own ambition, my own satisfaction in this world, I fail. But when I do it for the angels of a better nature, as Abraham Lincoln used to talk, then I feel good. I just don't do it enough. And when I got this award, some guilt came over me, to be honest with you. I'm just thinking, what about all the times I said harsh things? See, I think you can be tough as a coach. You've got to be tough as a coach, but you must have compassion. The best coaches I've ever been around had both, whether it was the Dean Smiths or the Vince Lombardis, just observing them. And I have a pretty famous brother. Sometimes I was a burden. Sometimes it was, but it was a blessing as well. And I learned a great deal. You see, in my life, there is kind of a North Star that guides me. I would hope all of you have that North Star, have some kind of guiding principles that leads you, navigates you through life. And for me, the North Star came down to two areas, because I was into coaching. One, it was about the way to coach. You see, I do believe basketball can be played many different ways. Many different ways. But I also believe there is a right way to play the game. And sometimes it gets criticized. I do not really know what Bennett ball is. I hear it a lot. And sometimes it's said in a derogatory term. It's slow. It's half-court, grind-em-out basketball. You know what? Everybody who's ever been connected with my brother doesn't play the game exactly that way. Tony right now is moving the ball a little bit, but he's kept that defense. They take care of the ball. You don't have to apologize for that. We played that way. We even played some zone. I had to go to confession every time we did it. I'm proud to say that the guy who took over for me, Bob Semling, he's got the pointers #1 in the nation. So much for my big impact at Stevens Point. It's about playing the game and teaching your kids the right stuff. I don't think it is wrong to not throw the ball away frivolously. I think it's a great way to play the game, to get good shots, to not give up silly offensive rebounds to your team. You see, more teams beat themselves than ever win games with great plays. And that may sound a little negative to you, but you watch those games. You watch Coach Rafter. He's still coach to me, all right? And watch how many mistakes are made down the stretch. If you can get a team to play tough together, play with some passion, you've got something going. My North Star about basketball throughout my career was everything I believed it to be. The last 2 years I coached, all my dreams came true. You see, last week I was watching a Super Bowl special, one of the zillion that's on these last couple of weeks. And they interviewed people who've won the Super Bowl, people who've lost it. My heart went out to Marty Schottenheimer the other day. Has a tremendous year, and now he'll have it hung around him that can't win the big one. The two people they interviewed at the end of that special were Fran Tarkenton. Fran Tarkenton, a great quarterback, but has to live with the what-ifs, the sure buts, the you almost did it. And then they interviewed John Elway. And of course, John Elway talked about the unbelievable feeling in his last 2 years of playing to win back-to-back Super Bowls. And Fran Tarkenton talked about how the legacy of himself as well as the Minnesota Vikings was tarnished by coming close but never getting there. I get on my knees every night and thank the Lord for what happened. And I did it with my son. From what I can tell, coaching both of my sons was the greatest blessing. But to have Nick be the MVP of our first Final Four, it's never happened in NCAA history. And it was something that I didn't think would happen. But when the lights were the brightest and the pressure was the greatest, that team played the game the way it was supposed to be played. My other North Star is this. You win with people. You win with trust and belief between your team and your coaching staff. Mike Krzyzewski says that. He says it's the trust that's the most important thing that goes into his preparation with his basketball team. And I love players who believe in humility. They know who they are. They know what their strengths and weaknesses are. I love players with passion. I cannot stand lukewarm players. They get people fired. They show promise, and then they go back into their cocoon. Give me a player that runs hot, and I can calm him down. Give me a player that runs cold, and I'll turn the fire up on him. But don't give me a lukewarm player. I want somebody who loves the game. Because that leads to the third part, perseverance. Victory doesn't go to the most talented often, the best jumpers, the best athletes. It goes to people who simply won't quit. They get knocked down, they get up. They figure out ways to be resilient. They learn from losses instead of blaming everybody else. And it's hard. It is more fun to win. Of course it is. But perseverance and resiliency is what wins championships. And then finally, give me players who have courage. Courage under fire. Courage to do the right thing, the tough thing when the pressure is on. And surround me with people who have the courage to listen to others and to admit when somebody else has a good idea. You know those 5 most difficult words in the English language to say. We don't say it to our wives, to our kids don't say it to us. The 5 toughest words, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And courageous people have that ability. They really do. Now, I want to finish with this. When we won our championships, the first one was a miracle run. We weren't expected to win. Kid Jason Kelso hits a shot with 0.2 of a second left to beat Williams of Massachusetts, a team that had won 60 out of their previous 61 games. They had beat Holy Cross that year. That was just manna from heaven. It was better than Hoosiers in my mind. The second year, we were the marked team. We had the pressure from the first practice on. And we got tougher and better as the year went on. Our last 2 teams in win or go home games. Win, you move on. Lose, your season is done. Through our conference tournament and the NCAA tournament, went 17-0. That's the kind of people you want to be around. And here's what I finally learned when we finally got what we wanted. I've been around coaches that have been close. I've been around players. I told you what Fran Tarkenton says. I know what Dan Marino feels like. Ernie Banks should have won a World Series. You can go throughout history. Charles Barkley, there's always that whimsical look on his face. He wanted an NBA championship. And don't think Michael Jordan doesn't tease him about it. But here's what I learned. Number one, if you're going to get what you really want to go after, what you have been working for your entire life, you got to overcome demons. And I'm not talking about immorality. I'm not talking about murderers, thieves. I'm talking about those demons that lie inside of us, deep inside of us. Doubts. We've come close, but it's never going to happen. Past failures that just kind of mount on us and make us believe it will never happen. You got to get a team to overcome those demons. And you know who has to overcome it first? The coach. And I was probably the most difficult task with that team. The second thing I learned, it's about defining moments. Championships are not about winning non-conference games. You learn more about your basketball team come tournament time than any other part of the season. Because when the pressure is on, your team will either gravitate towards their strengths, towards what they do best, or they will move towards their weaknesses. They will revert to being individualistic. They will not lean on one another. They will not play as a team. They will not make plays for one another. And that's why I love tournaments. It exposes your team for what it is. And when you come close but not quite there, you keep asking yourself, are we good enough? Am I good enough? Can we get it done? And for that team to do what they did, like I said, I'm thankful every day of my life. Final thing I learned, every team starts the year and reaches for what they want. They reach for goals that they want. But that's not good enough anymore. That's not good enough. You got to reach, and then you got to go beyond your grasp. You got to get players to believe they can go a little higher. They can accomplish more than they believe they could accomplish. And when you get 5 people on the floor and 12 people who practice and 15 that you carry who believe that way, that's when special things happen. And I will tell you this, I am not a missionary, I'm not a priest, but we told our team this in our locker room in Salem, Virginia those years. The last thing we said after we made our matchups, after we did what we had to, we said, with him, all things are possible. With him, all things are within grasp. Notice I didn't say with him we're going to win. Sometimes it's with him, allow me to handle the frustration. Our team went out and played basketball like it's supposed to be played. I want to finish by saying this. My major regret when I coached my sons, our championships, is that my parents weren't around. Coach Brugink knows my parents. Coach Brugink made basketball fun. He's one of the reasons I went into this sport. He and my brother. But my parents weren't around, yet they were. My mother had a personality that just didn't quit. She was a Pittsburgh Italian that moved to Clintonville, Wisconsin. And my dad was a little harder to figure out. But a very good friend of mine who lost his dad in 2005 sent me a journal he kept as his father passed away of cancer. It's probably one of the most touching things I've ever read. He's from Neenah, Tom Bachhuber. He had one entry there that when I read it, it was like a thunderbolt. It was my dad he was talking about. I thanked him for being a great dad for 56 years. And I've seen none finer. And I've seen many. I told him he balanced praise and humility well in his fathering. that I hungered for more praise, but now realized that he so valued humility and so disdained self-importance and arrogance. He wanted his sons to be sure we had the right perspective on our accomplishments and intentionally held back on his praising. It's my theory anyway. That's my theory too. And sometimes you got to lose someone to understand what they're all about. James Michener said it best. No matter what you accomplish in life, no matter what you do, for this is the journey that all men must make, to find themselves. And if we fail at this, it does not matter what else we may find. Mike Reese, committee, this has been one of the biggest honors of my life to be here. When I looked at those names of the other nice guys, I do not deserve to be up here. But I'm not going to give the cup away. God bless.
Jack, just a special little memento to take home, and Sue can remind you that you should be the nice guy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chuck. Oh, thank you. That's very nice.
Please subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell so you get notified when we post another great episode or interview. Download the podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for your support.